Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the camera store, and today we're talking about the Fujifilm X-H2.
Actually, Dave, we're going to be talking about the even newer high-resolution camera, the Fujifilm X-H2.
No S?
No S.
Evelyn, we reviewed the X-H2 just a couple months ago, and this camera is all about speed. It's by far the best focusing and the fastest Fujifilm camera I've used.
Absolutely, and this camera is interesting because this is their highest resolution X-series camera that they've come out with, and it's actually to date the highest resolution APS-C sensor camera on the market. So we're going to get into some of the pros and cons about these cameras to help you decide which one might be best for you. Real quick before I tell you about all these top level specs that I'm very excited about, I just want to mention that Dave and I actually both work for the camera store. And so not only do we do these camera reviews, but we also sell the gear too on the camera store website. So if you're Canadian and you like supporting local, definitely head up thecamerastore.com. Okay, so now that I have that out of the way, I want to talk about some of the key level specs of this camera. Of course, the number one thing is that this to date is actually the highest resolution APS-C camera on the market. And interestingly enough, as we were alluding to before, this is actually the lower price camera in the X-H lineup right now. So the S series is more expensive. We're going to get into some of those differences a little bit later on, but I also just wanted to highlight a few things that make this camera exciting. Now this is a 40 megapixel backside illuminated X-Trans sensor, and that's paired with their X5 processor. We also have 8K 30p video recording, and that's paired with their awesome image stabilization system that gets you up to 7 stops of image stabilization. And this is very equipped for video. We have that great long-lasting battery, we have full-size HDMI port, headphone jack, microphone jack, and just a lot of great features, including the fully articulating screen. For now, Dave and I were going to talk about the ergonomics as well as the handling of both these cameras.
They're exactly the same.
Okay, thanks Dave. I guess I'll be talking about this by myself then. In terms of the feel of this camera, we love the grip on both of them. They are identical, they have the same weather sealing, and it has that PSAM control dial. So they've really designed this camera so that it works well if you're a hybrid shooter shooting between photo and video. We also have the same panels on this camera as I was mentioning earlier. We also have the same memory card slots. So we have a CF Express Type B slot as well as a UHS-2 SD card slot. In terms of the overall button placement, where everything's sitting in my hand, I like the feel of this camera a lot. I like the joystick, I like the D-pad, the quick menu, all of the buttons, everything seems to be in the right place. Fujifilm did an excellent job with both these cameras in that way. On the top dial, you'll also notice that you have 7 custom control settings.
7 is way too many. I mean, I need like 2, and if I have 7 custom settings, I need a cheat sheet to go along with this camera to remember what I set it at.
Dave has a hard time remembering. But I have to argue with you because if you're a hybrid shooter, maybe you'll want 3 for your photography, and then if you're also shooting video, maybe you dedicate 4 to being your video settings. And so I think it does give a lot of flexibility for those hybrid shooters, which is what I think they're targeting with both these cameras.
I can totally see your point there. I mean, having that many options certainly is going to help you out. Now I have a 26 megapixel backside illuminated stack sensor. That gives me really fast readout speeds. The rolling shutter is very well controlled with the X-H2.
Yeah, and of course we have the same processor in both of these cameras, and so we have the new autofocus performance. We have face and eye detection, we have tracking for things like animals, birds, people, planes.
Now there's a lot going on with the autofocus systems in this camera, and I've had some quality time with the X-H2, and it is by far the fastest and best focusing Fujifilm camera that I've used. When it comes to the video specs in the X-H2, it's a really versatile camera. We have 2K at 240 frames per second, we have 4K at 60, 4K at 120 even, and we can go up to 6K at 30 frames per second.
Yeah, I mean, I can bump up to 8K. I mean, from Fujifilm's perspective, it is their top-end cameras that they've had. And again, we have to mention that this is the highest resolution Fujifilm camera in the APS-C sensor and the highest resolution APS-C sensor camera on the market. Before we wrap things up, Dave, let's talk a little bit about some of the extra accessories that both these cameras have available.
Something really cool is the fan unit you can put on both of these units here. So if you're shooting in the high resolution frame rates and video, you can attach physically, just screw on a fan unit on the back of the cameras here. It's kind of a simple solution, but it works really well and it really extends the shooting capacity, especially when you're shooting in 4K 60, 4K 120, or 8K.
Yeah, it's a nice option to have. We also have the ability to add a file transfer grip. So this gives you some extra battery life, as well as the ability to transfer files using a variety of different formats.
Now what's really cool about this grip is it allows you to hook up your camera through an Ethernet and connect multiple cameras together, but you can also do wireless file transfer as well. It's really nice to see that they're both compatible. There's not one grip for one model and not for the other, so I'm glad Fuji's doing that. And let's not forget that both these cameras allow you to just plug directly into the camera itself and use it as a high-resolution webcam. So, Evelyn, overall, what do you think of Fujifilm's decision to kind of have two cameras that are identical in their form factor, but drastically different cameras?
I think it's a good choice because we have two very different sensors. We have the same processor kind of backing them, a lot of the same IQ and specs otherwise. But personally, I would probably go with the higher resolution, the X-H2. I think that this would be a good choice for me. I want that detail. I'm not as concerned about missing out on a few of the video specs that you unlock, and I don't have as much of a need for the speed to go up to the 40 frames per second. What about you, Dave? Do you have a need for speed?
Well, what I'm finding is that there's like 80% crossover between these two cameras as far as functionality goes. So you really need to decide, do you want the lower resolution but the higher frame rate and the faster performance when it comes to like need for speed and shooting aggressive autofocus subjects, and I want that faster frame rate, or am I all about the detail? Is that my style of photography? So I can
still shoot pretty fast. I mean, 20 frames per second, albeit with a little bit of a crop. I think that that's going to be enough for a lot of applications that, you know, we've been talking about. If you're shooting some wildlife or some sports, I mean, that's still a fairly fast shooting speed.
Usually I'm all about the higher specs. I love big resolution and, you know, everything that goes along with it. I do like the multi-shot mode on this actually. If you want the ultimate and the high resolution, I can get it with this, with some caveats. I can't have anything moving, it's still life, but it's cool to have that feature. It brings out the geek in me, I guess, like that. But in this case, I actually like the need for speed, and I'm craving that more when I'm using this system.
Yeah, you've been having fun with this camera.
So yeah, I've been shooting the X-H2S for a while now, so it's kind of where I'm leaning on this particular case.
Yeah. But again, if you want to save some money and you want to still get a lot of the same kind of features, then I think the X-H2 is another very solid option from Fujifilm. First, we want to know, what do you guys think? What do you think of this direction from Fujifilm, having this highest resolution APS-C sensor camera on the market right now? It's pretty exciting stuff. Let us know in the comments below.
More speed or more resolution? Follow us both on Instagram.
And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll catch you again very soon.
Hey, thanks for sticking around and watching this first look video of the brand new Fujifilm X-H2. If you want to check out more of our recent content, including a first look at the Fujifilm X-H2S, click up here. And if you're a Canadian and you want to shop local, check out thecamerastore.com down here.